I used to be optimistic. Maybe that's just part of the journey. I was ruthlessly optimistic. I believed wholeheartedly that this team was going to be better. We've got more players playing in major European leagues than I could have ever dreamed of, even when I was a little kid and I was playing FIFA and I was looking for American players that were actually good. They just basically didn't even exist. I mean, you had Clint Dempsey on Fulham for a couple of seasons, and that was it. There was just like, there was nobody else, or a couple of kids in youth academies that would never pan out. But now, we could call up an entire national team of guys that are playing in good leagues, getting good minutes, playing Champions League or European ball in general. And that's what the U.S. is now. That's what it's capable of being. Right? And I had optimism that it would be possible to take players of that talent, a roster that I believe, by basically any metric you want to come up with to measure the overall quality of a national pool, is the best national pool in our continent, in CONCACAF. Right? Canada has the best player. They have Alphonso Davies. He's the best player. Jonathan David's a hell of a player. They got a couple other guys. I love Eustachio, right, and everything. Canada's a very good team. But the United States, most talented team by any metric you want to come up with in CONCACAF. We suck. We're bad. We did it again. We went out and got the major European coach, Mauricio Pochettino, $6 million a year to lead the team into the World Cup. And he did exactly what Greg Berhalter just did at Copa America and freaking lost a do-or-die game to Panama in the Nations League. The Nations League is more important in CONCACAF than in Europe. It just is. Because in CONCACAF, the Nations League provides an opportunity for the best nations to put their best teams on the field and play against each other. I believe the Gold Cup this summer will also provide the same thing. It will likely provide the same thing, but it usually doesn't. And that means the Nations League, since its inception in CONCACAF, has been this Final Four feature, the four best teams in CONCACAF that go up against each other. And in the last couple, there's really been three. It's Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Those are the three nations that are, consistently really, really good over the last 5 to 10 years. With the right players in place and the belief and just the results. The results back it up. Canada won the qualifying group for the last World Cup, above the United States, above Mexico. Right? But they've never won this major trophy. In fact, nobody outside of the United States has ever won the Nations League. And yet we show up, and every single part of this match was dumb. Every single part. The kickoff for the match, for this United States against Panama match, if I was trying to pick a worse time for it to kick off, I don't know if I would have been able to pull it off. One, CONCACAF has scheduled day one of this tournament to start the exact day is maybe the single biggest sporting day in the United States, the first day of March Madness, which is the college basketball tournament in the U.S., which I know it probably doesn't make sense to you guys, but it is a huge day. I take off work every year. There were no Zealandisms yesterday. I don't even turn my computer on. I sit on my couch, I drink beer, and I watch 13 straight hours of college basketball. And so does like everybody else in the U.S. They put it on 4 p.m. on that Thursday. That was the kickoff to this match. 4 p.m. in Los Angeles, the most traffic-plagued city in the United States. So not only is everybody either at work or watching March Madness, right? Now you have to, if you do want to go, you have to deal with high ticket prices and traffic. And so first of all, semifinal of the Nations League, U.S. against Panama, which is not a draw. There's fucking nobody there. I mean, nobody there. Right? Like if you were trying to create an empty stadium for this, this is the picture at kickoff. At kickoff of the match. This is what it looked like. Now, this stadium seats like 90,000 or whatever. It is a massive cavernous stadium. But high ticket prices, the ridiculous traffic of LA, right? And you got to think about the difference between stadiums where you're from and stadiums in the United States, right? You do have to drive there. There is no public transportation option to get you there. You cannot walk. You have to drive at 4 p.m. So everybody that has to go into work on the first day of March Madness is at work, and the people that aren't have made plans to handle March Madness. If you're a sports fan, which people that watch soccer in the United States are typically sports fans, because this is also, it's a sport. I know there's an international window, and they have to put it at a certain time. Right, but the first day at 4 p.m. in LA, I mean, that's what I mean. Everything about this was dumb from U.S. soccer, because then it's completely empty. It's almost awkwardly empty to play in what is a match that everybody thinks the United States is going to win, because the United States should win. Because, I mean, no offense to the Canal Boys, which is the official national team nicknamed Los Canaleros of Panama. The U.S. is better at basically every position. And yet, every time we play Panama, it's the same story. We can't create anything. They shithouse a goal, and they win. And that's exactly what happened. The United States has won the Nations League in CONCACAF every single time. It has been the single brightest spot in Greg Berhalter's tenure. It was. Everything else he did, not good. In my opinion, it just wasn't good. But what always happened, including the one time Berhalter didn't coach it, which was coached by B.J. Callahan, which, let's be honest, the best the United States has looked was under the interim head coach that took over when they were trying to figure out what to do between Berhalter's contracts. And we played better under that guy than we have under Berhalter or Pochettino. Bring back B.J. freaking Callahan, I guess. We beat Mexico 3-0 under that guy. We smoked them. Berhalter managed to squeak out a couple of Nations League titles as well, and I'm not going to take that away from him because it is clearly, apparently, way harder to do than anybody thought. But the United States had won this tournament every, I believe all 3 times that it's been contested, because it's every 2 years that you end up playing this kind of Nations League out. But we lost. Lost the game. Mauricio Pochettino's first big, important match in charge. His first match that really matters. The World Cup is less than 500 days away. It is a home World Cup. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. At most, 30 years from now, when I am 60 years old, will there be another World Cup in the United States? That's the kind of opportunity that this is. And you have 2 competitive tournaments before that. You have the Nations League and Gold Cup. And you go up to the Nations League and you put up less than 1 XG at home against Panama with 67% possession. It's not good enough. I don't care if no one's there. Now, granted, this was a joint effort. That's what I'm trying to emphasize, of stupidity between the entire U.S. Federation here in the scheduling and in everything. This was just dumb. Every part of this was dumb. Right? And everybody just assumed the U.S. was going to be able to win this match. And this was not a super watered down U.S. team. This was about the best that the U.S. is able to put on the field. Sargent, Pulisic, Weah, McKinney, Adams, Ream, Richards, Musa, Scally. These guys play major European football. Or in the case of Tim Ream, they did up until this year. He's just ageless. He's like 38 years old, just moved to MLS. He's still definitely one of our best center back options. Although on the goal, he made a big mistake. And so I'm not going to sit here and, say that he's maybe the best center back option anymore. But Panama's got nobody that should be able to line up against that team. They shouldn't even be able to look across the field at that team. CONCACAF is a footballing backwater. And when you're playing on the road, especially, things can get chaotic and the refereeing can get weird and the matches can get really physical and it gets really edgy, right? It's a little less under control as a qualifying match in Europe typically is, right? But the Nations League semifinal in SoFi Stadium, I don't care if you can hear a pin drop in there. You can't lose this game. And I think the gloves are off and the wool is no longer over my eyes. Right, I believed Mauricio Pochettino was going to be able to inspire these guys, that he was going to bring a whole new level, that he was a different type of coach than anyone that had ever coached the U.S. national team. He's the first person to ever come in to coach the U.S. national team with really major top league coaching experience. Fucking just bombed on arrival. lost to Panama at home in the semifinal. I mean, I would have been having this reaction if we got to the final and lost, right? Because the United States really needs to be winning these types of tournaments to become what I believe it can become, just with the players it has. Screw developing and going further in the future, just with the players that we have now, going as far as I believe that group can go, which is being able to go on the field against the real big boys and give them a real game, which the United States just doesn't really do, especially once it gets to the knockouts and gets smacked around by a team like the Netherlands, which they're obviously a very good team. I just think the U.S. should be able to go out there and lose by a goal, not 3, right? Let alone losing 1-0 against Panama. Now, the U.S. has an issue in that their striker situation's never been great. Sargent has been a dominant, has not been great in this generation. Because Sargent has been great in the championship, but he's obviously a level below the other guys that he's kind of being asked to play around. And to be honest, Josh Sargent would be the superstar starter for the Panamanian national team, so he still should be able to go out there and take care of business against a team like Panama. He should be able to dominate in CONCACAF, which he's clearly not able to do. Ricardo Pepi looked good at PSV, but then he hurt himself. He's out for a couple of months, so he might not even be able to play the Gold Cup this summer, in which case he'll have no competitive tournament experience leading up to the World Cup potentially to prove himself to Pochettino, which means he's likely not going to be the guy. Daryl Dike, who was doing great at West Brom, he's had huge injury issues, and he's not been able to get himself going. And Gio Reyna, just not able to get on the field for the U.S., even though he was on the bench for this game as well, and he's fallen out of favor at Dortmund, right? Because Reyna's clearly a weird guy the coaches kind of struggle to read and get along with. But I'll be honest, he's the most gifted U.S. player, like the most gifted American player I've ever seen, when he's focused and fit and on and utilized appropriately. I realize that's like a lot of specifications, but I feel like if you watch the sport, you understand what I'm talking about. There's a lot of these guys out there for a lot of different countries that if you can get everything plugged in the right way, they're unbelievable. The problem is everything's almost never plugged in all the right way. I was hoping Pochettino could be that guy, that knowledge, that gravitas, his more intimate understanding of the game than somebody like Greg Berhalter has, just to be perfectly honest, would help this team be better. But this is a catastrophic failure. From the planning to the hype of it to the just complete, just dead on arrival performance. It looked like every U.S. World Cup qualifier where the U.S. is in control of the match and has most of the ball, but for what? As Jose Mourinho said, we can take the freaking ball home. They'll take the 3 points. Panama's playing for the CONCACAF crown in the Nations League, and we're going home. And Mexico beat Canada 2-0 because the circle of suck in CONCACAF is Canada beats the U.S. beats Mexico, and Mexico beats Canada, so we kind of knew that was already going to happen. Right? And shoot, now I guess we lose to Panama too. It's not going to get easier from here. Even if you win this tournament, there's still going to be questions. Now, I mean, you've taken any potential optimism that anybody had about this team, and at least until I see something different in the Gold Cup this summer, you've murdered that optimism. I have none. This is embarrassing. This should not be happening. In the run-up to a World Cup, with the amount of money spent on the head coach, with the quality in the team, it should not be happening. And it can't. It can't happen again. It really can't. The welcome party is over. Can't fucking do this again, okay?